Okay.
Start with,
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a certain number of limitations with this because it is a photograph of a cast. So there are some kind of limitations about that, and we have, but we're just going to work with. I think the best thing to do in a situation like this is to work with what's presented, and take that as kind of being the thing. Now, I'm going to ask a question now. If you know the answer, don't say the answer. But if you know who this is, does anybody know who this is, but without saying who it is? Can you, if you know who it is, say yes, I know.
I can guess.
You can guess. Okay, well that's good. Okay, we'll try and keep your guesses out of your head. John, you're very intuitive with these things. I'm sure you're going to come up with an excellent assessment of this personality. Because the challenge when you've got something like this is you haven't got all the information, right? So the challenge the difficulty when you've got a hand, you've only got partial information, is you have to be more discerning about what you notice, and you have to be more inferential about what you can get from the things that you can see that are definite. But it's really important to go with only those things that are clear and defined and definite. And if you're not sure, you just have to sort of move on. And so, like, it's quite fine, Helen, you were asking about, is that a natural position of his hand? Therefore, does that, you could argue, for example, that cast makes his thumb look really enormous. Or you could say, or maybe that's just the perspective because of the way the hand was held. Normally you'd measure your thumb like this, and it's a bit in front, so it makes it look bigger than it is. So you might say, I won't take that into consideration. You might say, well, I'm not going to assume that it's a long thumb because I can't really measure that clearly. That's a really a sensible way to approach it. So you do need to go with the things that you can actually see for sure, which is why I told you what the fingerprint patterns are, because I've actually got a number of images of this hand, and I've been able to be clear about the fingerprint pattern. So just to remind you, in case you're not sure, it's loops on all the fingers apart from an arch on the index finger. So it's got an arch on the index finger, and all the rest are loops. So does anybody want to have a go at doing an assessment of the handprint, or would you like to do that, or would you like to go through? Oh, we can go through. I asked you several questions, didn't I? Let me just do it. Let's do it in terms of the questions, because that was actually quite a good way of putting it forward in that kind of way. Let's get that up there. All right. So the questions were: describe something of his temperament, what he did for a living, his communication and what it was like to interact with him, his physical being, his relationships and sexuality. All right, so let's talk about the physical being first, because that's kind of quite obvious, I think, from the hand. So did anybody get some notes for that, or get some ideas from that about what he's like physically?
Do you mean physically as in structure of the person?
Yeah, like what did he look like? Was he tall and thin, short and fat? Was he Stan Laurel, Oliver Hardy? What was he like?
Looks big to me, because they look like earthy, fiery hands, and I'd say fairly robust and big.
Yeah. So robust, big kind of person. Yeah.
I thought because of the fire that he would have been quite quicker than the hands would, more athletic. Short but athletic.
Short but athletic. That's fair. Short but athletic. Yeah. I think quick. The thing that's I'm not sure about quickness. I'm not sure about quick necessarily, but tough as fucking nails is a good way of thinking about it. Because and what in the hand shows that kind of physical toughness?
Well developed thumb mound.
Exactly. And in addition to that, Fiona, the really well developed area here. So what they in Palmistry is called the Mars mount. Right. So you've got a really big ball of the thumb. All right. So that's the first thing. The ball of the thumb is not so much to do with sensual pleasures as is often misinterpreted in palmistry books, because they say it's the amount of Venus. It's more to do with the amount of vitality that the person has. And so if you think about the thumb as the ether element, this is the physical level of the ether element. The physical level of the ether element is how much life force the person has, how much physical energy and vitality they have, or joie de vivre, if you like. They got this joy and exuberant energy that's consuming life. It's kind of participating in the world and really taking life to the full. The best example that everybody knows of is Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I call this the Schwarzenegger bump. So if you think about the kind of exuberant light that shines out of Schwarzenegger's eyes and always has done, you know, it's ever since he was a young man doing the bodybuilding stuff and then the Mr. Universe stuff, and then he becomes a film star. He's like got this voracious appetite for life and incredible amounts of physical energy and drive. So when you see a very large ball of the thumb like that, you've got someone with a huge amount of physical energy and a huge amount of drive. And so there's this kind of throwing themselves into life and consuming life and eating life and participating and getting stuck in. And these are not people who lie around in bed all day drinking tea and coffee, Fiona. These are the people. These are the get up and goes who got up and went hours ago. You know, they've already put in half a day before everyone else gets up. Yes, go, John.
So look, the base phalanges aren't long, but they're quite barrel-like, aren't they? You know, they're sort of darker.
Are you talking about the fingers now?
Yes, fingers. Yes.
Fingers? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Therefore, you know, is he going to have, you know, some, you know, he enjoys his food.
Yes. So is he skinny or podgy?
Podgy.
Well built.
Yeah. He's going to be. So we know from the ball of the thumb he's a powerhouse, but he's also a bit portly, right? So he's a bit chubby, you know, in some kind of way. But will he be chubby in a flabby way or chubby in a kind of elastic way?
Solid way.
Yeah, you know, like you get some people who are just, you know, flubble bubbles, you know, and they're just walking around and they're just blubbery. He's not a blubber boy, you know, even though he's like, clearly, as you say, John, he likes his food. The way you can think about the phalanges, you know, he loves his sensual pleasures. The phalanges, the water phalange being food, so he loves his food. Get right up there, get that up, boom. So he loves his food. He loves sensual pleasures and touching things and the tactile sense of things. That's what's on the earth finger. And he loves his wine and his socializing, and he loves his sex. So you've got somebody, so all those different pleasures are related to each of the phalanges. So food, tactile sensory pleasures, social pleasures, and sexual pleasures. They're all, as you quite rightly point out, John, these are really well-developed phalanges of the fingers. So he's a very sensuous person. So this kind of, again, emphasizes that sort of joie de vivre thing. But why is he not flabby? Well, he's not flabby because of this. That is a really well-developed Mount of Mars. And so when you get the Mount of Mars, the well-developed as well as the Mount of Earth, so you've got that's showing the vitality, but that shows the fighting activity.
The what activity?
Fighting.
Fighting.
Yeah, fighting. So he's got a kind of fighting spirit. So so what that tells you is not only stocky, but he's also really strong. This is a really strong man. So he's podgy, but strong. So he's not a flubble bubble. Okay, he's kind of, you know, he's not wibbly wobbly. He's kind of this stocky and hard and powerful and strong. And that's what you get that with the fire mount being strong as well, is you kind of get this sort of powerfulness in the body. So this is a really physically powerful man who loves his pleasures. All right, does that all make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else about his physicality that we can detect from here? What does the earth line tell us? Does that tell us anything?
No, it's very strong.
So two people spoke at once. Put your hand up and I'll tell you. Karen, did you say something?
Yeah, I said it's a very strong, well-defined. Although I wasn't, because of the way the hand's held, it looks more strong, but it seemed very clearly defined, very strong, very clearly defined.
Yeah.
Very long.
Yeah. Is that you're going to say the same, Helen?
I was going to say good health, strong.
Yeah.
Good health.
No, I think there's no question about that. This is a really healthy human being. This is a really physically strong, healthy. That's a really great earth line. It's really clear. I mean, you get, okay, it's joined at the beginning. There might be a bit of islands in there, but that is such a clear line. He's old in this print. When was he? How old was he when he was taking this? 63. This is 60. He's 63 in this cast. This is not a young man. This is an old man. He's older than me. So like, and that's a really there's a lot of vitality in this hand, and the lifeline, the earth line, shows that vitality. So this is lots of vitality, lots of energy. He's a strong and healthy human being. All right, cool. So let's look at what does he do? What clues have we got here about what he does? So maybe who wants to have a go at that? Let's just before you interpret them, let's just make sure we've got them. What are the features of the hand that show the kind of things that he did in his life? Anybody? Tell me what hand features tell you something about his work.
So he's got a long fire finger, so he wants to himself.
No, don't say what it means. Don't say what it means yet. Let's just identify the features.
Yeah.
We'll just identify the features, then we're all on the same page, okay?
Yeah.
Long fire finger. Yeah, absolutely. That's really crucial. Long fire finger.
Long ear finger.
Long air finger. I think that's less important, but yeah, it is. But it is a significant thing. Yeah.
Well, the things that we've spoken about, really, isn't it? The hand shape, the fire mount, all that's really in giving a clue, I think.
Yeah.
We don't.
So that what do you say the hand shape is, Karen?
Well, to me, it looks like a earthy fire hand shape.
And does anybody have a different opinion?
I thought it was the earth, but sorry, fire.
Yeah, I think it's a straight fire hand. I just think it's a straight fire hand, Karen. It's just got a very large.
It's just the chunkiness. It's a
chunky, but yeah,
he's chunky.
He's a chunky monkey. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. That's fair. But I think it's still a fire hand.
Brings a little bit of I think it's a fire hand, but I think it's got a bit of earthiness there because of the chunkiness. That's all.
Yeah, no, great. I prefer that assessment you just made there. So fire with a strong earth element rather than the fire earth hand. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. All right. And there were two other hand features, which tell us about what he does. And I'll tell you what they are lines.
Oh.
Okay. Well, it's got a really strong fate line. The line up to the earth finger.
Yeah. But what does that tell us about his work, or what does it tell us about?
Oh, that he's driven. He's a strong personality. He knows where he's going.
Yeah, but that doesn't tell us what he does. He just tells us how he does what he does, which is basically he doesn't fucking negotiate. He doesn't deviate. He's got a very clear idea of himself. He knows what he wants in his life, and he's going to go out and get it. So we know that about him, but it doesn't really tell us what he's doing.
It comes from Earth, though. His fire. Oh. It comes from Earth.
Yeah. Okay. And what do you want to say about that? How does it? What does that? Okay. You want to hold that in there as helping us tell us what he does? Okay. All right. Minor Earth from Earth. Okay. All right. We'll hold that there for a second. There are two more lines that show us but tell us what he does.
Oh, his airline curves right down and it goes right into Luna.
Yeah, let's just looking at the form of the line. You're quite right, Helen. It's a curved airline. So that's the third thing. It's a curved airline. Okay. It's a curve. It's not a straight airline. It's beautifully curved. It's a really beautiful curve. It kind of does something a bit weird here, and I can't quite work out what that is. So I'm going to assume that the airline actually ends. Basically, that it kind of goes down here and ends there.
All right.
Okay.
I personally can't see that, and I don't quite know what that is, so I'm unsure. So I'm not going to talk about that bit. Okay, I'll be guessing. I'd like to see that on a handprint if I was going to say his airline goes right. I can see what you mean. There's a bit here and there's that bit there, but I don't know if it really joins on. And I'm just not sure. I don't. For the purposes of what we're doing, it doesn't actually matter because he's got a curved airline, and that's important.
The fake line, if that's what we call it, where it meets the airline. Okay,
Yeah.
then it has a little break. Okay, but there's a mini simian line coming from under the ring finger. Okay, which meets, so the fake line meets that mini simian line at the airline. I think that's really important. In other words, it's all about presentation and image and how this person is seen. That's super important for this person.
That's very perceptive. Why do you say it's to do with presentation and image?
Because the mini simian line below the ring finger is all about image and persona and how they're seen by other people.
Okay.
And it shows it's an obsession.
Sorry, just want to clarify. You're saying that because the line starts underneath the ring finger here, and is joining into the fake line there. Is that what you're saying? Is that why you're saying that?
Yes, that's right. So it's an obsession, and it's an obsession with image. Okay.
And because it's starting underneath the ring finger, that's why it's to do with image, and it's obsessional because it's actually a waterline thing. So it's like the waterline is kind of being like having a tap, and it's sort of like taking some of the water to go over to there. Is that how you're thinking of it?
Yes.
Cool. Nice. I like that. And it's also correct as well. So that's got two things going for it. I like it, and it's actually true. Brilliant. You're on the right lines again, John. All right. Well, you're all missing one line, which I think is really important. And then when I draw this in now, you'll go, oh yeah.
Okay.
I'll just delete that so you can see it. Can you? So now you know where I'm drawing. Can you see it?
Yeah.
And that's the minor phi line. And the minor phi line, or Apollo line, or God knows what other name you want to give it. The sanctuary line, the inner sanctum line, that's a good name for it, is found on certain types of people only. So don't answer that question right now. So zooming out again. So I would argue, is there anything else that anybody's noticed that's significant in terms of what we know about what he does? No? Okay. All right. So we've got a fire handshake. So we know from the fire handshake, this is somebody who's very expressive, and we know from the kind of qualities of the hand, because it's quite earthy, as Karen pointed out, that he wants to express himself in some kind of physical or tangible kind of way. We also know there's a very strong tactile orientation, because we know he's very physical, we know he's very sensual, we know that he enjoys the pleasures of the senses. So this tells us something about his whole orientation to life, both that he's very industrious, very very active and busy, but also in a very physical, larger than life kind of way, and with a very strong sort of tactile physical component. He's got a long ring finger, which is commonly found in the hands of
entertainers.
Yeah, artists.
artists. Yes, artists in the broadest sense of the term. Broadest sense of the term. He's some kind of, there's a desire when the ring finger's long, there's a desire to express your personality. There's a desire to radiate out into the world. Remember, the ring finger is the finger of radiation. So there's this desire to express. Yes, it could be an entertainer. Yes, it could be an artist. It could be a performer. Could be a musician. We don't know yet, but it's one of those, because it's somebody who's really projecting their personality out there, which is why, John, your comment about that particular line formation is really pertinent, because that confirms, again, this is somebody who's very concerned with presentation and image. And we know that the long ring finger is very concerned with presentation and image, but it may be more than just in the Obama sort of television presentation PR stunt kind of event. It actually may have some more creative basis to that. And there are two things that confirm this. What are the two features that confirm this? We've already talked about them. We've already listed them. But how do they confirm it?
Sorry, what are we confirming?
What we've just discerned, that he's got a long ring finger, long five finger, so we know he's some kind of artist or performer or musician or entertainer. That's where we've got to so far. What features of the hand confirm that or help us refine that assessment?
Okay.
We've already listed them. I just need you to articulate them, put it into words.
Okay.
Yeah, the strong thenar eminence, the thenar mouth.
No, that doesn't. I don't think that shows the artistic side of it. What shows the artistic? Go ahead.
The curved airline.
The curved airline, absolutely. Curved airlines show someone with an imaginative way of thinking, someone with a creative way of thinking. So the curved airline, the long ring finger, and a curved airline are the classic formations you get to find in the hand of an artist or a musician. Now, normally you'd expect, if you wanted to get the trifecta for that, you'd have a curved airline and a long ring finger, and that ring finger would have a whirl on it. Now, we happen to know that this is not a whirl on his hand, but if he had a long ring finger with a whirl and a curved airline, absolutely classic indications of artist, musician, or performer. Coupled with the low mass line, we're now going to call this one.
What you calling that, low?
I've never heard. Where did you get that idea from, John? I've never come across that idea. It's brilliant. Where did you get that idea from? Do you know?
I think it was Johnny. Yeah.
That's what my intuition just told me as well. I think you're right. I think it is a Johnny thing. All right. Well, we can take that as being a completely reliable thing then. If Mr. Fincham has originated this notion and you've just demonstrated its veracity, I think we can consider that one confirmed and to be taken aboard into the canon of knowledge, along with the loop of vanity. All right. So and then the third thing that shows the artistic temperament, please, Karen.
The fire line that goes up to the fire finger.
The minor fire line. Yeah, the minor fire line. So the minor fire line, this is a really long minor fire line. And a minor fire line, which is half the length of the hand, is a long minor fire line. It's really, really rare to find a minor fire line that goes all the way down to the bottom of the hand. I've got some examples and I can show you those, but it is really rare to see a minor fire line that will come actually all the way like down there. That's not usual at all. What's much more common is you get a minor fire line just in this bit. And this guy whose hands I read yesterday, the 66-year-old, he's just built his retirement place on the coast in Christchurch, and he's got his fantastic. He's given up work. He doesn't want to bother work anymore. He's got his idealized perfect little haven where he can be by the sea and enjoy his life and do everything he wants to do, and in that kind of be more concerned with the inner realm. He's no longer, I can't be bothered with work anymore. That's what happens when people have the line of this line formed like this, is they want to retreat into their inner world. So they create their own private space. And normally when you get it in the hand, it's just above the waterline. This is kind of like a retirement dream for people. But they want to just retreat away from the world. They want to get off their minor earth line, get off that line, and just go off into that line. And so, and what you often find when the minor fire line is strong, and this part of the line, this part of the hand, the minor earth line is correspondingly weak in a normal person. Now, what you find here is that the minor fire line is extending right down there and actually coming out of the minor earth line. And when you get the longer the line becomes, when it's halfway down like that, this line basically shows the very strong need for that person to have a strong inner life. So you can think, John, the best way to think about this line is like an inner minor earth line or an inner fate line. So the fate line is like how we relate to the external world. It's closer to the thumb. And this is a sort of more private version of that self-identity. So people with this pattern, with this line strong, always want to have a private space. And the people who have this line are either artists, musicians, writers, or healers who have, or meditators. So they either have a shrine room or a healing room or a writer's studio or a she shed or a man cave or a pot in an artist little place where they go, a place where they can go, which is their sort of sanctuary space where they can go and be in this inner world where they can be creative in some kind of way. So this line is found often on creative people. If it's formed to at least the half length of the palm like that, they will be doing one of those things. And there's an absolute need for them to have a sort of sanctuary, a space in a place in their life, whether it's a room or a corner of a room or a separate shed where they can have this kind of sanctuary. So that need to build a sanctuary is really important, because that's where they go to be creative. So someone who's got this as a full feature of their hand, they are being creative all the time. It's not just something they're going to do when they retire. It's something they want. It's an integrated part of their life. So again, it's a confirmation that this person is some kind of artist. So we've got three things that tells us this person has an artistic temperament. Got a long ring finger, desire to express, interest in the aesthetics of things and the beauty of things. We've got an airline that shows that he's imaginative and creative and thinking outside the box. And we've got a minor fire line, which shows a need for privacy and a need to have a sort of studio space where he can be creative in that kind of way. So we've got really strong indications of that he is some kind of artistic expression. He is some kind of artist. Artistic expression is really, really important to him. What kind of art?
Sorry, Christopher. Does that create a little bit of an inner conflict? With the with the board of the thumb and the fire qualities of the hand. And the large bottom phalanx, to have that dynamic quality and the energy, the impatience. And yes, at the same time,
I agree, I agree, and it really describes this person's temperament, as you will see. So the question is, if he's some kind of artist or performer or entertainer, as Helen said, rule out whichever, or musician. If any of those, rule out which ones seem least plausible, and what kind of artist, entertainer, musician, performer is he, and what tells you about that. What feature of the hand will tell you what he actually does. Which sort of branch of that will he do? Don't all speak at once, or I have to pick on you, particularly if you've got a regular loop.
Oh, sorry, I was speaking, but I was kind of off audio.
Go ahead, Fiona.
I wondered if musician, based on the kind of
Why?
the communication side of it with his long long ear finger.
Yeah, musicians don't always have long air fingers. Sometimes musicians have short air fingers, and the reason why they're musicians is they're communicating through their music, and because they're not actually very good at speaking. So the
Suppose it
long
was
air finger is not. I
thinking of
kind of
songs.
try to deflect you off the long air finger because it's. I'm not saying it's irrelevant, but it's confusing to creating a sense of what this person does. All right, long air fingers. To get this in your head, Fiona, and you'll kind of be clear. Long air fingers occur in the hands of politicians, academics, lawyers, real estate agents, salesmen of any kind, really, and hairdressers.
But he does have a long ear finger.
He does, but
Yeah.
but the kind of what you're asking me is you're saying you think it's important for his work, and I'm saying no, it isn't, and it's a bit of a red herring. If you focus on that, you'll end up in the wrong direction, because what's more important is the long fire finger, the curved air line, and the minor fire line. Yes, he's a bloody talker. I bet he bloody talks his fucking all the donkeys around where he lives have got no legs. I'm sure they have. All right, so he done half talk, but if you emphasize the air finger and the lengths of the air finger, Fiona, you'll end up with politician, academic, real estate agent, salesman, or hairdresser, and he's none of those.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to caution you. Just trying to say those are the kind of people you'd expect to have a long air finger, but they wouldn't have the other features that he's got in his hands.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to get a politician with a minor fire line and a curved air line, or a long fire. Well, maybe a long fire finger actually, but not those other two lines. So this is why I'm showing that. I'm emphasizing that is because I'm saying that's kind of where you have to kind of go. Okay, yeah, that's important, but I don't think that's the main thing. So I'm just trying to take you away from that because the other things are more important. Karen, Helen, what do you think? What kind of art or expression or entertainment is he doing?
His fingers are all so close together that he's not going to be comfortable going out into the world very much.
I would not take that as a significant feature because this has been done as a cast. He may well have just put his hand into the mold in that kind of way. So I think you can't count the finger spacing as a feature to look at in this hand.
So I kind of think then that he's going to be a musician of some sort.
Yeah, I know you think that, but you have to say why.
Because he's got to be doing something. He's got to be doing something physical.
Right. So musicians are really well known for their physical activity.
Yeah.
Not.
Yeah.
No, they're not. They sit around all day in studios doing fuck all, drinking tea and smoking.
It depends what
smoking
sort
weed.
of musician. I mean, he could be a drummer. They move quite a lot.
Okay, he could be a drummer. He's not a drummer, not as far as I know.
I'll give up then.
Yeah, you've got an idea in your head, and you're pursuing that idea, and that's okay. But you've gone down, you've taken a right turn, and you've ended up in Swaffham rather than Norwich. You know,
never a good thing.
Never a good idea to end up in Swaffham. All right, okay. I'm going to give you a clue because you're all floundering a little bit. Okay, so what's the fingerprint pattern on his index finger?
Oh, it's an arch, yeah. So something
It's
earthy.
an arch.
Something simple.
So what does that mean, Karen?
Well, it's something simple, down to earth, like practical, connected to earth, connected to nature.
Yeah.
So, you know, but I'm sort of, I've got my mind's going on lots of things. I'm wavering between lots of different things at the moment, trying to piece it all together.
All right, give us some of your waverings.
Well, you know, I'm trying to add up all these things because I know he's got the art, so I'm thinking it's going to be practical and earthy, but then he's needs to retreat to be creative, but then he's sort of wants to be publicly, you know, he's got a need to express himself publicly.
Yeah.
He's quite creative. So, you know, I've been thinking about, is he one of these sort of celebrity chefs or something? I'm just trying to think what he could do that's creative and down to earth that could be
celebrity chef didn't exist when he was around. So he was
yeah, I'm trying to think of the
yeah. This is, you know, think it's more like the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s that he was around.
Oh, okay. So he's not alive now.
No. I think he died in the early 60s.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Oh, no, he died in
what?
he died in 1973. Sorry, he died in 1973. Born in 1881, died in 1973.
Was he a sculptor?
A sculptor. That is the right answer. Come on down.
Yeah.
That is exactly what he was. That's exactly what he was.
Oh.
He was not only, I'll just read you a line of his biography. He was not only a master painter, but also a sculptor, printmaker, ceramics artist, etching artist, and writer.
Yeah.
And he was very interested in naturalism as an art form.
Right. Okay.
And his artistic influences included African art, earth tones, and primitivism.
Okay.
If you didn't have the arch, you wouldn't be able to say that, would you?
You're right. The arch is the kind of the key thing. That and the physicality of his body. All right. So he's a very physical, tangible, down to earth body. As Karen said, he's quite earthy. But that plus the arch is the tipping factor. You know, it's like your index finger is your sense of identity. He identifies with earth. He identifies with earthy things. He identifies with the simple, the primitive, the down to earth. But he's also practical, hands-on, and he makes things and he does things with his hands. This is really, Helen, this is why this is not a musician. He's a real hands-on, doey person. You know, he's making stuff. He's working with marble. He's working with wood. He's working with metal. You know, he's physical. It's like he's physically strong. You can tell that from the hand. This is a really, really strong man. But he's interested. So I think it's a combination of both those things, John. Both the earthiness in the ball of the thumb and the arch together as well. So it adds to that. But in terms of his self-identity, he thinks himself in very much in terms of this practical, down-to-earth kind of guy. So he's, you know, one of the things that's really difficult for artists is actually how to make a living as an artist. This guy knows how to make a living as an artist. You know, I mean, this is not Van Gogh. Van Gogh died a pauper, you know, and the Sunflowers painting was, the last time it was sold, something like $83 million, you know, but all his works of art that were brilliant, you know, he was selling them for some beer for the evening or a bed in the inn, you know, and he didn't make any money at all. But this guy knows how to make money out of his art. And
he's got the long hair finger. He's a salesman.
Well, yeah, the long hair finger would definitely help. Good point. Yeah, great point. Yeah, he could definitely sort of pitch his pitches, do the promotion and presentation. Absolutely, sure, for sure. Yeah, exactly.
You know what's thrown me? I thought this guy was alive now, and he's about 63. So that's why I'm thinking more to do with, you know, modern type things. As soon as I know,
I apologize for not giving you his birth date. So that would have been helpful. I appreciate that.
It would have been helpful because I'm thinking, that's why I'm thinking celebrity. I'm thinking more to terms to do with modern, somebody who's like 63, 64 now, and what they potentially could be doing or would be doing.
Yeah. It's all right. You're doing very well, Karen. I'm just going to appease your little aching radial loop there and saying you're not wrong. You're doing very well.
No, it's nice to know a bit of key information of context.
Yeah. No, you're quite right. It's a fair comment. I apologize for not giving that information. All right. So we've got, he's an artistic person. And that one of the things he does sculpture.
Right.
So he's a painter and a sculptor. All right. So what was it? So the next thing, his communication, and what was it like to interact with him?
Well, he's got a number of things going on there because he's got the long air finger, which would be quite talkative, but he'd be quite self-referencing because of the way the waterline curves up towards the index finger, which we already discussed earlier.
Well spotted. Yeah.
And but the arch wouldn't necessarily be somebody who wants to overcomplicate their language. His you know, just because you know keep things simple and practical, but so I'm sort of thinking in terms of communicating with him, it's you know, and you know he's quite you know there's something else, the Johnny Lomas line sort of suggested some sort of more self-obsessed sort of thing too, so I'm not sure how it would be like to communicate with him because I think there's a number of things going on.
Is he a wallflower or is he a dominating personality?
Dominating
more
Domination. Absolutely
Yeah.
dominating. What are the things that show you this is a dominating personality?
Really big thumb.
Really big thumb. Yeah.
Really big thumb, and well, just the energy of the fire hand. Who need space. Fire hands don't like to be dominated. Don't like people standing over them. They and also, you know, the two little branch lines, mini simian lines, you know, between water and air lines. They show kind of obsession, and especially with the curved airline. The curved airline says, "Don't give me cold hard facts. I don't care about Cartesian logic or reason." I know what I know because my emotions tell me what the answer is. Yeah. Okay. So the obsessiveness of that is quite. I don't think you can reason with this person. It must be quite difficult, and you just got to accept this person as he is.
I go further than that. I say this guy's a bully. This guy dominates. He's domineering. And he will talk. He will fucking talk you to death. I mean, I've got a long air finger and I talk, but I think I'd lose in a talking battle with this guy. You know, this guy, he's got a strong physical presence and that strong thumb, and then a really long air finger. So he's like, he will physically dominate the space because he's big, but he also psychologically dominates the space because he talks a lot because of the long air finger. What were you going to say, Helen?
Just that the depth of the earth line could make him really dominant. It's why? If it's because his confidence will be overbearing. He's got a lot of confidence in himself.
Exactly. Yeah. We call that arrogance, actually, I think.
Yeah, you can. I'd just probably say bully, but
yeah, well, that's good. You're allowed to be undiplomatic even if you have got a radial loop on your index finger.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it to his face, though.
No, he might hit you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What's the significance of the fact that his ring finger, his fire finger, is longer than his water finger? That's important. Remember, when you're looking at the psychology of a person, the fire finger, water finger balance is really important, not because of what Dr. Bloody Manning talks about, but just simply because of the balance of the two elements, whether it's a fire person or a water finger person or a fire finger person. What does the long fire finger want? What does the long water finger want? And therefore, what does he want?
So it's more sort of him how he expresses himself out to people publicly, radiating. It's like putting himself out there.
Yeah,
really.
But why? What does he need? What is he after?
Recognition.
Okay, you can't all talk at once. If you want to talk, put your hand up. If you all speak, then you all cancel each other out, and I can't hear any of you. All right. Fiona, what did you say?
I said he wants approval, wants to be liked.
He wants approval. Is that what you're going to say, Helen?
Yeah, that's the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Long ring finger. They want to be liked. Do they want to be the center of attention, or do they want to sort of shy away in the background?
Former.
Yeah, the former. So he wants an audience. This is a fucking guy sitting on a fucking throne, you know, wanting an adoration of an audience where he can just talk at them. How do you think he will respond if you ignored him and left the room?
I'll play up.
Yeah, he's not. He wouldn't let you. He probably wouldn't let you
Attention-seeking
leave the room.
behaviour.
Is that what you? Sorry, I didn't catch what you said, Helen. Karen, could you say that again?
I said attention-seeking behaviour.
Yeah, attention-seeking behaviour. Totally. Is there anything else in the hand that could show this person has attention-seeking behaviour where he prominences himself?
Waterline.
What about that waterline?
Well, it's to the water finger, so he's a bit self-obsessed.
Yes, exactly. And this is a great example of what we were talking about earlier, John, of the waterline going into the bottom of the water finger. This is a really, really good example of it. It doesn't quite make it, but that is absolutely, totally a self-obsessed waterline. It ends about there, but look where it's going to go. It's going right. That's its trajectory. Tell me about this kind of person. Don't tell me about their psychological trauma. I'm not interested in the trauma in terms of this guy.
It'll all be about what's in it for me, or what, you know, he won't be asking questions about other people. It'll be kind of, what can I get out of a situation?
Correct. Yeah. Prominenting himself, putting himself at the front of the sentence. Go, John.
Okay, so in this image, you can see the airline crossing the Earth line, seems to me, and sort of going into Mars. If so, yeah, at least at the very beginning, they're really joined, which means in his youth, he was very, very dominated, very much sort of enmeshed, you know, with his parents.
Yeah.
Probably to the extent that it was, you know, quite probably traumatic and dated, and wasn't given sort of freedom to express his own personality when he was that young. There could be a huge amount of pain and sort of anger which wants to express itself. In other words, listen to me, you know, because he didn't have a voice when he was young, did he? So now he wants to talk, and he hates it when other people talk over him.
Correct. I think you've analysed the psychology of his childhood absolutely spot on. Do you agree with that, Helen? Because he's got this very classic tide, air, and earth line, like you were talking about earlier on.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to add to what John just said?
It's quite late by the time he becomes independent of his family's influence. I don't know anything. Yeah. I don't know who this is, but it's quite late.
I think that don't worry too much about the timing of it. Just think about it in terms of the quality that John talks about, that there was a dominating parental influence that had a lasting effect upon him. And I think, what I think you've done there, John, is you've kind of worked really cleverly to join those two features together. You've kind of gone, well, yeah, he's quite clearly self-obsessed. And what, you know, but why is he self-obsessed? Well, he's self-obsessed because you know, he was complete, and he was ignored or was completely dominated when he was a child, and so basically, you know, he now wants to make it all about him, and he's going to fight for his rights to make it all about him. I think that's a really astute analysis of looking at the different features and seeing how they kind of connected together in that kind of way. And as you've already observed, they've got these kind of these bridging lines that kind of create the kind of intensity and obsessiveness about that behavior as well. And this one particularly, because this one's tied up with the image and looking good. He would have been somebody who would have been absolutely, you couldn't do anything that would fuck up his reputation. This is exactly the kind of person, if you do anything to damage his reputation or lessen his status in some kind of way in the eyes of other people, you would feel his wrath. But I think this is the kind of man who's actually potentially very violent as well, because you've got so much power This is a man who can physically dominate other people. So the next question is, how does this play out in his relationships with women?
Physically dominating.
Yes, correct. Don't all speak at once.
I think he would be quite he'd be quite physical sexually, I think, because of his vitality and
that's the
energy.
first. Go on, Fiona. Sorry, I interrupted you. Carry on.
I was just going to say, because of the vitality and energy and his sort of physicality,
Yeah.
I think he would be quite.
Yeah, the first thing to notice is that this guy wants a lot of sex, even at 63. You know, this is a highly sexualized human being. And we know that simply because of the amount of kind of vitality that he's got, just by simply virtue of the size of these mounts, but also the long air finger, plus also the sensuality. But within that, at the same time, there's a sense of entitlement. And the entitlement is because, well, the waterline's going into my water finger. So, you know, you're here to pleasure me, my darling. So get on with it. And so there's a kind of very strong, and I want the attention, and I'm show-offy. You know, this is somebody who basically is kind of demanding, sexually demanding, and has, because they have sexual appetites. They're very persuasive. You know, therefore, because of the long air finger in this case, Fiona, will show that he's very charming.
Right. Yeah.
You know, he's not only charming the pants off the girls, he's charming the knickers off as well. You know, he's kind of like, he's got that kind of persuasive and a charismatic kind of quality, because he's got the long fire finger, and he's all about image and presentation, and there's a bravado, anyway, there's a kind of bravado that he's got, and a kind of forcefulness. The forcefulness that we talked about with the domination of his personality, with the combination of the earth mount and the long air finger, and the waterline showing the sort of like entitlement. You know, it's all about me, so I thank you very much. You know, it's all about my needs and my pleasures. So I think this is a man with a very strong physical sexual appetite, very strong sensual orientation to sensual pleasures, and a kind of very strong sense of entitlement. I think this is a very powerful combination of all sorts of problematic dynamics in relationships. Does anyone want to add anything to that?
Yeah,
John?
Yeah, so yeah, he's absolutely going to destroy a water type, and just because he doesn't really care that much about other people's emotions. You know, he's quite entitled, and so he'll probably go with an air type, but a very strong kind of earthy air type. But yeah, I kind of feel a bit sorry for the poor woman who, you know, needs a strong woman to put up with it.
Yeah, I agree. Helen?
I've got a line of intensity and a passion line, so really.
Oh yeah, wow. I hadn't. Hang on. Let me just clear those off and let's just zoom in. Hang on a second. So you're saying there's the passion line. Where's the line of intensity? You're thinking that bit there?
Yeah, I think that might be.
I think that's I hadn't calculated that one, but I can see what you mean. You're talking about that line there as a line of intensity.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
And then there's the passion line. Yeah, you're absolutely right. He's got a passion line going right through it. Passion line that actually goes into that.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh my God,
that joins
everything.
into that line. That makes it even worse, or even more powerful, or even more obsessive.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, cool. Can you interpret that? Give me an interpretation of that, Helen. That's terrible.
Yeah, just obsessed with sex. But it's not, it's very visual. It's very visual.
This is I'm not going to say upset. I don't think obsessed is. I think possessive is the right word. I think this is kind of like he wants someone to be his sexual muse, but he's very possessive about that. So basically, I think this adds to the level of wanting to control women in sexual relationships. So he wants some beautiful young woman that he can act out all his sexual fantasies with, but it's also tied in with this obsessional quality. But the obsessional quality basically makes it really possessive, because look where it goes to. It goes to the earth line.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, I'm going to, not only do I want you as my muse, I'm going to put you in a cage and trap you so you're there, so you can't get away, so I can have sex with you whenever I want to. That's absolutely correct too. I hadn't seen that before, and I hadn't thought of this before. So Helen, thank you for illuminating that. But that is and I know that's true of this character. It's exactly what he did. Fuck, that's amazing. I'm not too sure about the line of intensity. I don't think that's. I mean, you might be right, you might not be right. I'm just going to be cautious about that, because I'm saying, can't really see that. But the passion line, definitely. Passion line going into that simian bridging line, definitely. And the intensity and the passion comes from the large Venus mount anyway, Helen. So whether he's got an intensity line, he's got that, and the Mars mount. You know, he's got lots of vitality and a big desire to poke with it. Whoa, he's not coming out very nice, is he?
No.
Go, John. Can't hear you, John. You're muted.
Yeah. So instead of an intensity line, it seems though like two gashes.
John, let me just stop you a minute. Sometimes
your lines
audio
going up towards the airline.
John, just be careful, because sometimes your audio is breaking up and we can't always hear you. Oh, I can't hear you.
No, I can't.
You're talking about these lines going up here, John.
Okay, so is that any better?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
Okay. So it looks, yes, it looks, there were two lines going up there which look like two sort of massive disturbances in his subconscious. Is that
maybe
correct?
I think I'm my personal choice. I wouldn't talk about those lines, any of those lines there, because they're not clear in my. I'm not clear in my mind exactly what they are. But I don't think we can see them clearly. For my mind, and my advice to you as hand readers is, if you're not 100% sure, don't talk about it. You know, and I'm not sure, so I'm going to say, meh, I don't know. So if we stick, I mean, that's just the things that we know that we can do, we can be clear about. We've got enough information just from that. You know, like Helen's observation about these lines, you know, that's quite clearly, there's no doubt that that's a passion line. It's quite clearly present. Boom. And then it comes down and it hits that. That's quite, you know, it's always good to just go with what you can be sure about, John, when you're reading hands, you know, and then because you're going to be more accurate. And that's often enough information to tell the person what you need, that they need to know. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. There is something going on down here. I just don't quite know what the fuck it is. So I'm not quite sure, you know. I mean, there's also that line there, and there's that line there. There's that line there. There's another line, you know. That line there. That line there is that.
Yeah.
Can't hear. Was that you speaking, John? I couldn't hear you at all in that one. Sorry. It was better before when you had your headphones on. All right, let's move on. All right, so, and another. Sorry, Karen, Helen. Another one of the things on the obsessive possessive, the obsessive possessive faculty of that. Another obsessive possessive faculty of that. Okay, I'm hearing me talking back now, John. So you've changed something. Maybe put your headphones back on and take the speaker off or something, because I can hear me being relayed back through your microphone. Another one there, Helen, is he's got a loyalty line.
Oh, yeah. Loyalty line.
So this is a man who will have
Ooh.
sex with lots of women, but will expect absolute fidelity from those women to him.
Yeah.
He is unable to be faithful to them, but he expects faithfulness to him because he's obsessed and he's possessive. And also he's got this loyalty line that kind of wants to, you have to be loyal to me. So basically what I think we've got here is we've got the hand of a narcissist.
Oh, right.
But all those components we've just been talking about are absolute characteristics of a narcissistic male. And this man has an absolute history of abusive relationship with women, 2 marriages, 3 illegitimate children, and leaving a litany of mental health issues in his wake. Combine that with a mythical view of himself, like a self-importance, but he often had sexual relationships with his proteges, the women he was mentoring, and much younger women that he used as muses, that were his muses. I'm not sure why John's gone away, but he's gone away. I can't know where he's gone to. Maybe he just took his camera off. Are you still there, John? No, he's gone. All right. So anyone know who this is? Oh, here he is. John's back. Brilliant. Thank you, John. Just wondered where you went to. I was just about to do the grand reveal. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, this is the hand of. Hang on, let me just try and get out of this.
Mm.
Do you know who that is?
Picasso.
Pablo Picasso.
Picasso.
Mhm.
I've written it down, Picasso.
You've written that down? Did you guess that?
Yeah.
How did you get that?
Oh, it was the abuse and the strong character, and he was good at making money, so.
Yeah, he was. Congratulations. That was amazing. What do you know about his abusive relationships?
Well, he'd just move on, and it just kind of expected them all to be there.
Yeah.
It was very odd.
Yeah. There was a movie made in the 1980s, I think, starring Anthony Hopkins as Picasso, called Surviving Picasso. And it was the story of one of the young women that he had as his muses and how he trapped her in his property and basically sexually used her for his own sexual needs. But he had lots of relationships with lots of women. He was he's Spanish, but basically he had this sort of arrogance of like taking life and taking what he wanted and just going out and getting it. And he did that with everything in life, and he also did that with women. So that was kind of like his modus operandi, if you like. Yeah. So well done. I mean, and also he's physically incredibly strong. He had the constitution of an ox. I think I'm not sure if he did bullfighting, but he was very interested in bullfighting. And I don't know if he actually was. He did spend some time as a bullfighter when he was younger, but he had that kind of mentality of like, you got to go and fight the ox. You know, he liked that kind of challenge. But obviously he was only very physical and grounded and full of life's pleasure, wanting the life's pleasures. You know, it's very physical approach to life. He actually has a loop of playfulness in his hand as well. But yeah, home, financial security, loyalty, all really important thing to him. Wanting to learn new skills, clearly really important to him because of that arch in there. But also the importance of doing something he feels passionate about with the loop of playfulness. You know, it's commonly seen on the hands of artists because they want to do what they love. So there's a kind of very strong need for him to do the things that he feels passionate about. The long air finger, this is the kind of person who would have had long lunches. Like we started drinking at lunchtime and they were still drinking by dinner time, you know, like lunch that just goes on the whole fucking day. You can just imagine him having friends round at his chateau, and you know, there he is talking, holding court, you know, having all these amazing long conversations with people, full of great food and great wine. And yeah, he was hyper talkative, clearly, but therefore very persuasive. But I think the key thing for me when I was reading this hand, because I think the artist stuff is quite easy to work out from the hand that he's some kind of artist. But the key thing for me was, and then the arch and the earth, like you get, John, like that makes him the sculptor. But his personality-wise, I think his key thing is the waterline going into the water finger. That is absolutely the indication of someone who puts themselves at the center, that they make everything revolve around them, particularly in relationships. It's someone with that line. It's a very difficult person to have a relationship with, because someone with a waterline like that, it's not a relationship. It's not about us. Never a relationship about us, because the relationship should be about us. No, with them, the relationship's all about them. They prioritize how they feel, what their needs are. They prioritize themselves. You know, they are the most important person in that relationship. And God forbid if you think that they're not the most important person in that relationship, because that is being disloyal. So, you know, you're not giving them the adulation that they need, or they want. I'll read you some of the stuff about his relationships because it's quite important. So he had, and this is not, I've just got this off the website. I don't know the story really, but his romantic partner of 7 years, Fernanda, figured in many of his Cubist work. Their relationship was tempestuous and they separated for good for 1912. But he'd already fallen in love with another woman by this time. And then he went into a brief relationship with another woman that only lasted a year. And then he dated a 20-year-old actress and another woman called Irene. Then he met his wife, Olga, who was a ballet dancer, and they married. They had a son, but they got divorced soon afterwards. But he refused to grant her a divorce, since that meant he would have to give her half of his money. So they remained married only in name until she died in 1955. When he was 46, he met a 17-year-old, had a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old, who gave birth to his daughter. And they remained a couple until 1936. Then he had another relationship with a younger art student called Francois Gillot, who produced another son called Claude and a daughter. But this relationship was doomed, like so many of other Picasso's previous ones, however, due to his continual infidelities and abuse. This is an official biography of Picasso on the web that talk about it in a sentence like that: his continual infidelities and abuse. And at 79, he married his second and last wife, who was one of his most greatest inspirations. Anyway, just I'll put this document online so you can read that assessment of his hands. But he was not. I personally don't like his art either, but I mean, obviously, I'm not very well qualified to address that question. But whatever one thinks of his art, he quite clearly was not a very nice person. John.
So, people like that who have very sort of piercing eyes, they're very intense. Do you get that from? So I've got two questions. Do you get that from how well defined the airline is? You know, it could be a thin, deeply etched airline. Is that where it comes from? The other question I have is, I know from Picasso, he was traumatized by the death of, I think it was his sister. He was really young, and that really traumatized him. Would that show on his part?
The thing about trauma is, the answer to your first question is I don't know. I've never made a correlation between piercing eyes and anything, piercing visions and anything on the hand. But I like your idea, but I don't know. The second question, the trouble with trauma is you never quite know how it's going to manifest in your hand. So you can see, you know, people's experiences. the trauma is their response to those experiences. Maybe his vile behavior towards women was because of his anger about the death of his sister. I mean, that's speculating, but like, you know, he's angry about that. It upset him, and it basically made him self-obsessed, and I mean, the fact of the matter is he didn't treat women well in his life. So was that a result of the anger from the loss of his sister? That would be something for a psychotherapist to explore, to find out whether that's true or not. We would be speculating about that. What we do know is that he had self-worth issues because his waterline goes into his water finger. What we do know, he had some kind of domineering parental relationship, as Helen pointed out, because of the conjoined air and earth line. So, and we know that he wanted to be liked and adored because of the long firefinger and the low mast line. So, you know, it's kind of like those ingredients are there, you know, so you can see those as the effects, but then you have to kind of talk to the person to find out what the causes are. So we don't know from just looking at a print. We'll just be kind of speculating, maybe fairly, but we probably can't know for sure without actually talking it through with him. So, did anybody else get that was Picasso before I said so?
Yeah.
No? Are you amazed? How do you feel about that?
I don't think I knew much about him, to be honest, but
yeah. Karen?
I don't know much about Picasso either, apart from, of course, I know a Picasso piece of art if I see it, if it's a famous one. But apart from that, I'm not really into that sort of scene, so I don't really know too much about Picasso. I know a lot now. I know him intimately now.
Now you do. Exactly.
And I don't need to know any more. I do not need to know any more about him. Thank you.
All right, good. Well, we're going to wrap it up there, guys. But listen, I wanted to give that example because it's great that we've got a cast of his hand that we can actually analyze a famous, you know, and he is a very famous person. I mean, everybody's heard of Picasso. And, you know, it's like we're very fortunate to have that opportunity. But I wanted to show you how, even when you've only got relatively scant information, you can actually go through and build up a picture. And you all did really, really well. Everything you said, apart from your stuff on the air finger, Fiona, but everything you said was great. You know, it was kind of like you kind of funneled it down, you worked it all out, and that's how it's quite good to do it thematically that way. Say, well, what's he like physically? What's his job like? What's he like emotionally? And actually, if you ask those questions when you're looking at a hand, it helps you to kind of focus on the things in the hand that draw those bits out. And you don't actually have to write anything. You just make a list of the things. And this is a really good technique for reading hands, like physically. Okay, what's he like physically? Got that, and that. So that's what they like physically. What's he like emotionally? Always got that, and that. That's what he like emotionally. And just make them. We've got that, and all. That's what his skill sets. That's probably what job he does. So it's kind of like doing 5 levels of analysis, Karen, but in a very kind of quick and succinct way. Just look at the hand and make notes of like, oh, he's got a long air finger. That's his personality. Oh, he's got a long fire finger. Oh, that's probably what he does for a job. Oh, he's got a big ball of the thumb. That's what he's like physically. Actually put those things that you're observing into those categories, because that helps you organize the information so that when you talk about it, you can actually present it in that kind of way. And it just helps kind of have to have a system when you're analyzing hands like that, I think.
Yeah.
Was that good? Was that helpful? Was that useful?
Oh,
Very helpful.
brilliant. Thank you.
Really good. Thank you.
Brilliant. You're welcome,
Thank you.
guys.